What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taking Action. As you can see, a little solo day for me today. Chris is a little bit under the weather, so of course, wishing the best to Bookie extraordinaire or betting man extraordinaire over there. But I will take the show from here, and you know what? We jump right into it. I know nobody likes to wait, so we jump right into it from the scores of last week. That'd be week 13. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving, of course. And with that being said, we'll start with the games on that day. The Packers at the Lions. Lions are 2.5-point favorites. They, of course, do not cover the spread as the Packers win 31-24. That didn't end up being the pick. We were kind of in between that and another game. That would have been the Panther game, which, of course, the Panthers won outright, but we'll get into that one a little bit later. You can always play Monday morning quarterback, but we went with what we went with. Had some information on Jordan Love that kind of just didn't pan out, but we go from there. The Chiefs were 3.5-point favorites at the Cowboys, but the Cowboys win 31-28. The Bengals get a big upset with the return of Joe Burrow winning 32-14. The Ravens were 7-point favorites in that one. Joey B looking good in his first game back. Ravens, a little bit of a struggle bus right now, but the Bears at the Eagles. Eagles were 7-point favorites, but the Bears got a 24-15 victory. That was our Black Friday game on Prime. And then we finally get into the Sunday slate, which honestly looks kind of boring, but ended up being pretty good here. The Buccaneers were 2.5-point favorites. They get a 20-17 victory over the Cardinals, so they covered there. Jaguars at the Titans. Jags win 25-3. They were 6.5-point favorites, so they cover in that one. Rams 10.5-point favorites at the Panthers, but the Panthers, big upset victory in that one. They win 31-28. That's the second time this season, I think, where they've been 10+ point underdogs, and one, of course, earlier in the year against the Packers. I think it was like 13.5, and they ended up beating them on their home field. The Saints at the Dolphins. Dolphins get a 21-17 victory, but they don't cover that 6-point spread. Falcons were 2.5-point favorites at the Jets, but the Jets win 27-24. The 49ers were 6.5-point favorites, and they cover because they win 26-8 at the Browns. Vikings at the Seahawks. Seahawks ended up being 9.5-point favorites. JJ McCarthy did not play in this game, and they win 26-0, so a blowout there. Bills were 3.5-point favorites at the Steelers. Bills win 26-7. They cover in that. Raiders at the Chargers. Chargers win 31-14. They cover the 9.5-point spread. The Broncos at the Commanders, our Sunday night football game, which turned out to be an absolute banger of a game. Broncos win 27-26 in overtime. Of course, the Commanders ended up going for 2. They have nothing to lose on their season, but they do not get it. A nice play by Benito to knock the ball down, not let Mariota get it over his outstretched arms to the running back. And then, of course, Monday night football, that would be the Giants at the Patriots. Patriots were a 7.5-point favorite, and they win 33-15. Some hard hits in that one. Jackson Dart gets demolished running out of bounds, which I've been saying, for a while. I think teams should just take it, even if it is a penalty, but it ended up not being one. At the fumble on the kick return, Patriots returned a punt for a touchdown, so a good day for them overall. And with that being said, we go right in to week 14. I'm going to do, I see everybody usually looking for more picks. Obviously that has been something that me and Chris always, go back and forth with on who our pick is going to be. So I'm going to do my best to tell you who I like in the game, maybe a little bit of a reason why, and obviously everybody can make their own decision on what they want to do in that one. But me and Chris will come together for the main pick. So make sure you go head over to Juice Reel and subscribe over there so you never miss any picks. The link will be in the bio. I usually try and put it in the comments as well, so everybody is easy to find it. But if not, make sure you go and subscribe as I missed the mic up. All right, let's start on Thursday night football. That would be the Cowboys at the Lions. Lions open as 5.5-point favorites. That is down to 3 total from 48.5 up to 49, so just a half a point there. Lions definitely not playing their best right now. They were supposed to have Frank Ragnow, the center, come out of retirement. He ends up failing his physical with like a grade 3 hamstring. So he's just not coming out of retirement anymore. Amon-Ra St. Brown got hurt on the Thanksgiving Day game. So I believe he is considered week to week. Not sure if he's going to be able to suit up in this game. That makes a big difference, of course. He is their number one wide receiver, one of the, I would say, top 5 receivers in football. So that is something to definitely look out for. Cowboys playing pretty well. Like I said, they beat the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, so they're kind of getting hot at the right time. It's hard to say, but maybe the Cowboys with the points there. Lions at home are very dangerous, though. The Commanders at the Vikings. This one kind of went all over the place. Vikings opened as 2.5, then it went to Commanders 2, and now the Vikings are back to 1.5 point favorites. So a lot of movement. I would imagine this is because the status of Jaden Daniels is still up in the air. Terry McLaurin did come back. He played pretty well in that overtime game. Obviously, they have Deebo Samuel as well. So we'll see what they do with Jaden Daniels. But if he is to play, I would assume this line is going to change. Once again, I would stay away from that game as is. But people like to bet what they like to bet. The Dolphins opened 2.5. That went to 3 against the Jets. 42 to 40.5 on the total. Dolphins with the win. The Jets with the win. 2 teams that aren't really going anywhere. But I will say the Dolphins have looked a lot better than they had in the past ever since firing their GM. So maybe things are looking up. Maybe it wasn't Mike McDaniels. But another game, I'm not really sure. Maybe the Dolphins if I was forced. The Titans at the Browns. Browns opened up as 4-point favorites. That's down to 3.5. I think if you are betting this game, you are just very bored because the Titans are terrible. Browns are very bad. I mean, the only reason to really watch this game is to see if Myles Garrett is going to break the all-time single-season sack record, which I believe he's up to 18, and the record is either 22 or 21.5. I want to say it's somewhere around there. So I would imagine he's going to break the record. Probably not in this game. That would be a hell of a performance. It is possible he has 5 sacks in one game before. So, but yeah, I don't know where to go on that one. Like I said, Browns opened 4, went to 3.5, total from 34.5 down to 33.5. That is projected, and I would imagine to be a low-scoring game. Titans can't do anything on offense. Browns have a great defense, and then the Browns just really haven't done anything on offense all year. We go to the Steelers at the Ravens, an all-time classic rivalry with even a little bit more juice on it because this is now for first place in the division as the Steelers have kind of, wicked away what they had done at the beginning of the year. Ravens opened 6.5. That's down to 5.5. Total from 47.5 down to 43. Like I said before, the Ravens have definitely not looked their best recently, even with Lamar coming back from the injury. They are getting healthier on defense, so that's going to help. Aaron Rodgers is kind of doing his Aaron Rodgers things in terms of blaming, wide receivers, and he was talking about Jonnu Smith. So kind of a lot of rolling, kind of a lot of pieces in this game. Still, though, I think the Ravens are in for a good one in this. I would side with them. Not sure. We have a couple of games that we're kind of picking between right now. I do like the Ravens in that one though with the 5.5. Even though typically that is a dead number, but it didn't open at 5.5. It opened at 6.5 and it went down to 5.5. So a little bit of a asterisk on that. Seahawks opened 7.5 against the Falcons, total from 44 to 43.5. Falcons obviously still going with Kirk Cousins. Seahawks, Sam Darnold has looked good. You have Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's been playing unbelievable. So 7.5 is a lot, especially, on the road, home team underdog, as Chris always likes to say. You get the hook. That's a tough one. That is definitely a tough one. I'm not really sold on it, but I would not be surprised if the Seahawks can pull it off. But at the same time, the Falcons are a super weird team that right when you think that they can't play with anybody, they have a really nice performance. So probably staying away from that one as well. Another game that should be very good. A few good games this week. After, like I said, last week looked like it was going to be a week of bad games. Ended up being pretty good. The Colts opened 2.5, now down to 1.5 against the Jaguars. Total from 48.5 down to 47.5. This game is also going to now be for first place in the AFC South. A a lot of things with this as well. The main one being that Daniel Jones is playing with a hairline fracture. I believe it's his tibia. I know a lot of people probably already seen the video of him running around in practice limping. Now, it didn't seem to affect him a crazy amount this past week. They still did lose that game. So it's hard to say that's not affecting him at all. Now, the Texans do have a very good defense, so you can't blame him there. But the Jags are playing well. And historically, especially over the past few years, for some reason, the Colts have had a problem beating the Jaguars. I remember a few years ago when they were on Hard Knocks in the midseason, they needed that game against the Jags, and the Jags were awful at that time. Trying to get into the playoffs, they ended up losing that one. So another game that we are eyeing right now, I think I would give the edge to the Jaguars, just the way the Colts have been playing recently. Jonathan Taylor really not having those explosive games like he was earlier in the year. The receiving group, Michael Pittman, a solid player. Alec Pierce, solid, but nothing special. And Jacoby Myers has looked good since he got over to the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has been playing a little bit better, ETN. So they have some things going on with the Jags, but very excited to watch that game. Probably leaning, I would say, towards the Jaguars. The Saints at the Buccaneers. Bucs opened 7.5-point favorites. That's up to 8.5. Total in that from 43 down to 42.5, so not much movement. Saints, they've been bad all year long. We know that 8.5 is a big number. Would I be surprised if the Bucs were able to cover it? No, especially at home against the Saints team that just is not very good, but still a pretty large number. It is the NFL. Anytime you start talking over a touchdown, you're in prime position to get backdoored and have some crazy play at the end of the game when everybody's resting that, just ends up screwing you. So probably would stay away from that, but wouldn't be surprised, I should say, if the Bucs were able to cover. Great game here. The Bengals at the Bills, especially with the return of Joe Burrow. Bills open 7. That's down to 5.5. Would have loved getting the Bengals plus 7. 5.5. Like I said before, a dead number, as me and Chris always say, but it's down to 5.5. It didn't open. When it opens at 5.5, that's when it really scares everybody off. You have Jamar Chase. You have Joe Burrow back. Chase Brown has been playing good in the running back position. I would imagine T. Higgins is done with his concussion protocol at this point, so he should be back for this game. I'll have to, that's something to keep your eye out for, I should say, during the course of the week. Bills, they do put a good performance together against the Steelers, but the Steelers, like I said before, haven't really been playing that great of football as it is. Going to be a heck of a game here. Total 53.5 down to 51.5, so they're expecting a lot of scoring. I can see that as well. These are two teams that can put up points, very quickly, especially if the wide receivers want to show up for Josh Allen. He's kind of putting on that Superman cape. I still think even with it dropping in points, maybe going with the Bengals. Like I said, love them at 7, but at 5.5, it's definitely a little bit more of a conversation. Could see an upset here. Bengals are playing for their lives, and the Bills obviously need to win as well, but Bengals much more important for them. If they want any chance to somehow make it into the playoffs, would be a miracle in itself. The Broncos at the Raiders. Broncos opened at 8, down to 7.5, total from 39.5 to 40.5. Another game. Raiders are just awful. They haven't played well all year. Still can't believe they beat my Patriots week 1 of the season. Different problem. Broncos coming off a hard-fought game Sunday night against the Commanders. Do they kind of relax a little bit? 7.5, you get that hook. So if you believe the Raiders can keep it close, you, of course, would go with them. But I don't know. The way that the Raiders play, the way that the Broncos have been playing, I think this could be a confidence builder for the Broncos as well. People have been talking about the offense. Bo Nix not really looking as good as it should at this point in the season. So do they want to kind of come out there and show everybody what they can really do? I could see that as well. The Bears at the Packers, another game that is very important in the division. I think I saw somewhere on Twitter that if the Bears win this game, they're the number 1 seed. If they lose, they would drop down to like the 7 seed, which is unbelievable. The NFC is going to be very, very fun this season. Packers open, Bears at the Packers. Packers opened at 6.5. They still are at 6.5. It's a pretty big number for a team that is currently the number 1 seed, and they beat the Eagles. Now, it seems like every time you think a team is good in the NFL right now, they lose. Last week it was the Rams, and then they end up losing to the Panthers. Before that, the Chiefs were back, and they end up losing some games. It was the Colts at one point; they've lost some games. So every time you kind of think a team is good, it's been a big roller coaster this year. 6.5, a lot of points, especially for a rivalry game with so much history. I think maybe you go with the Bears here, especially if that number was to get up to 7 to get the full touchdown. But the Packers, talk about a roller coaster. I feel like every time we're ready to really push them forward, something happens. Now, they did beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, but I think they've done that the last 3 seasons, which is kind of crazy. The Rams opened 8.5 at the Cardinals, still at 8.5, total from 47.5 to 48. Like I said, every time we're ready to kind of crown somebody as the next big team that's going to win the Super Bowl this year, they kind of stumble. The Rams did with the Panthers. Division rivalry, 8.5. This is one of those games where it's, they see each other so much. Do you think, they know each other well, or are the Rams going to come out and say, all right, we messed up last week, but we're not going to do that again, and kind of really put a hurting on the Cardinals? I would probably bet the latter, with the Cardinals with the Rams, I should say, putting a good performance up against the Cardinals. Devontae Adams has like 97 touchdowns from the 1 yard line and in, so maybe you want to throw a little prop bet on him. And then we go down to Sunday Night Football, which should be a good one. The Texans at the Chiefs. Chiefs opened at 5.5. That's now at 3.5. And it was 3 earlier in the day, but when I was updating everything, that moved over to 3.5. The Texans have a great defense, like a very, very, very good defense. One that, for some reason, I still feel like is a little bit underlooked. Chiefs haven't been playing that well on offense. Now, the Texans' offense does kind of struggle a little bit, so that's the only thing that scares me. But you're getting that hook with the 3.5. I would lean definitely towards the Texans in this one. Now, the Chiefs are that annoying team that will end up winning this game by like 4 to really just screw you if you do end up taking the Texans. But I don't know. They've hurt me in the past, but I think the Texans 3.5 here is a solid play, especially with the way their defense has been playing. Chiefs are fighting for their playoff lives, of course, so they're definitely the more desperate team. But at the same time, Texans are looking for a playoff berth as well, and they're still alive in that division as well. So something to watch on both ends there. And we end it with Monday Night Football. That would be the Eagles open 2, went to 3 at the Chargers. That total from 43.5 down to 40.5. Of course, with the way that the Eagles played on Black Friday, not surprised that the total went down. Kind of surprised that the spread went up. It's difficult. I think the Chargers at home, it's not really that much of a home field advantage. We've seen it several times where other teams come in and kind of just take over their stadium. Has not been the same since they moved from San Diego. But, oh, man. I think the Eagles need it more. I think the Eagles need this game more. They got to prove something. I don't know how I feel about the 3 points. The way that they're playing this almost feels like a pick 'em to me. So I don't know. I'd probably stay away. I would probably stay away from this game. But I want to thank everybody for watching. That does wrap up week 14 of the NFL season. Make sure that you put your picks in the comment section below. We always love seeing what people have to say. Appreciate everybody for watching. As always, like I said, I hope everybody did have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully got some good deals on Black Friday or Cyber Monday as well. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in, subscribing. I know there's a million things to watch on YouTube that are uploaded every single day, but people still come back, watch this show. Don't worry, me and Chris will get together. We're going to put out a play probably. By the time you're seeing this video, it's already up, but make sure you go subscribe to the Juicer so you do get it the second that it does go live. And Chris, feel better, my friend. I'm sure he'll be back next week. But until then, we'll catch you on the next one.